A corporate finance slide shows you the final output. What it does not show you is the reasoning that created it. Why was this slide selected? What question is it answering? What evidence belongs on it? And how should it change for the next transaction? That hidden reasoning is what separates a useful professional system from a folder of attractive templates. This is episode 3 and we will explore what's inside the Corporate Finance Toolkit. In episode 2, I argued that context is becoming a professional advantage. Now let me show you how that idea has been turned into a working product. If you're working in investment banking, M&A, transaction advisory, or fundraising, presenting a deal story, an investment idea, a fundraising case, or an exit from one of your portfolio companies is a part of your job. And PowerPoint and Excel are probably already central to your professional life. You may be preparing a teaser, an information memorandum, a management presentation, an investment committee paper, lender materials, or a board transaction update. The difficult part is not simply operating MS Excel or PowerPoint. Rather, it is turning a complex transaction into a clear story that a sophisticated audience can understand and challenge. Now, this requires judgment about what matters, which analysis belongs in that document, how the argument should develop, and how each slide should communicate its conclusion. And let's not forget, not every finance professional is naturally gifted when it comes to presentation creativity. I have seen professionals with an exceptional understanding of a transaction, but they still struggle to storyboard the deal visually in PowerPoint. My name is Supratik Mukherjee. I'm a CFA charter holder, a certified financial risk manager, and I hold an MBA from the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management. I have worked in corporate finance for more than 8 years across Asia, Africa, and Europe, and I've had the opportunity to work in more than 50 plus transactions. Across all those transactions, I have encountered the same recurring problem. Professionals could understand a transaction exceptionally well and still lack a reusable system for turning that judgment into clear institutional quality materials. That's why I built the Corporate Finance Toolkit. This toolkit is an AI context layer for corporate finance presentations. It gives the general purpose large language model the specialized professional context it cannot see on its own. Now, that context includes deal frameworks, narrative logic, transaction experience, design standards, slide intelligence, and data and chart logic. The visible product at the front end includes 148 editable PowerPoint slides across 15 corporate finance sections, plus a companion Excel databook with 50 plus embedded charts. These templates are not generic decorative layouts. They are reference structures for transaction arguments, evidence, charts, content hierarchy, financial analysis, valuations, and returns. Toolkit combines those editable references with an 8-stage AI workflow, including brief, select, story, adapt, visualize, prepare, build slide, and review. And the crazy part is that you do not have to memorize that workflow or decide which instruction to use next. You just need to connect the toolkit project folder to your LLM, and then the connected AI can identify the current stage, explain the next checkpoint, and wait for your approval. The objective is to turn one-off slide building into a repeatable transaction documentation system while keeping every deal's facts, narrative, and output separate. This process does not remove professional judgment, and it does not promise a finished editable deck in one click. It gives your judgment a stronger starting point and makes the work more consistent, reviewable, and reusable. As AI models become more capable, this context layer remains extremely useful because it gives those improving capabilities a professional method. This is the future of work in corporate finance. Professionals will be increasingly judged on their ability to create institutional-grade corporate finance documents by directing and reviewing the work produced by their personal AI agents. So let's get back. The PowerPoint and Excel files are what you see at the front end. To understand why the toolkit can go beyond a static library, we need to look underneath them. At a high level, the product has 3 working layers: the physical toolkit, the intelligence layer, and the guided workflow layer. A deal workspace sits beside those layers. That is where the facts, decisions, and output for each new transaction remains isolated. The AI environment connects the relevant pieces. It reads the instructions required for the current decision, works inside the named deal and stops at the defined human checkpoints. That is the complete mental model. Now let us look at each layer without getting lost in the technical detail. The first layer is physical. An editable PowerPoint reference library, a companion Excel databook, and a high-definition image reference for every slide. The PowerPoint contains 148 pages. Of those, 128 are reusable content slides. The reusable slides are organized across 15 sections covering the full corporate finance story. Take a company overview slide. The visible page is only the front end of a much larger professional decision. Behind it, the toolkit records why the slide exists, which decision it supports, what evidence is required, and which parts of the structure can change. The intelligence layer covers transaction logic, narrative sequencing, slide selection, chart construction, databook logic, and design standards. Narrative intelligence helps the model understand that an action title is not a label. It is the conclusion that advances the transaction argument. Transaction intelligence also changes the lens. A sell-side document may build an evidence-led investment case, whereas a buy-side or investment committee document must examine diligence findings, operating risks, and mitigation strategies. Then we have the design intelligence that covers hierarchy, typography, color, layout, density, chart conventions, and source formatting. So those choices do not begin from zero on every page. Also, the point is not to load every file. The system is instructed to use only the context required for the current decision. The third layer turns that intelligence into an 8-stage core production AI workflow. So the workflow includes the brief command that structures the transaction context. Then the select command identifies the relevant references. After that, we have the story command that establishes the narrative and the action title chain. Then follows the adapt command that makes the approved content, data, and reference structure deal specific. After that, we have the visualization command that establishes a reviewable target before time is committed to build the editable slide. Then we have the protect command that protects the master file and creates a transaction-specific PowerPoint and Excel working copies. After that, we have the build slide command that works on one editable slide at a time. Finally, we have the review command that checks the output against the transaction lens, approved facts, narrative, reference structure, and design standards. But the interesting thing is that you don't need to memorize any of these commands. You just need to plug the folder and the AI tells you exactly which command follows which structure. So every arrow here is a human checkpoint. Approval moves the work forward, but it does not allow the model to silently reinterpret a decision that has already been approved. Each new assignment begins inside a named deal workspace. Raw materials are placed inside client input, which could be Word files, PDFs, presentations, workbooks, call notes, meeting notes, or other transaction materials. The brief workflow converts those materials into a structured transaction record covering the deal identity, company, financial position, transaction rationale, data gaps, and open questions. From that point onwards, the deal file becomes the transaction-specific source of truth, while the master assets and the reusable intelligence remain protected. We also have a visualization studio that gives the user a persistent place to compare the editable reference with the proposed visual target. That's a very big value add. It records the target version, feedback, approval status, the approved content architecture, and the construction method selected for the editable slide. The studio is a review and approval surface. It does not replace the AI conversation, generate the professional reasoning, or turn an image automatically into a finished editable slide. It's essentially a place where you do the visual storyboarding before actually starting to build the editable slide. Now, once a visual target is approved, the user selects one of the two construction routes. The first route adapts the existing editable toolkit reference. This is normally the higher fidelity route when the approved target remains close to the original slide. The second route asks an available presentation agent for an editable baseline. That baseline is reviewed immediately and retained only if it is genuinely useful. The system builds and reviews exactly one slide at a time. If the baseline is poor, it is discarded and the approved target remains the guide for manual reconstruction. These LLM models will continue to get better. Their ability to work with documents, images, PowerPoint, and Excel will generally improve. The architecture is designed so that those improvements can raise execution quality without changing the professional method underneath. In the upcoming videos, I will use the Corporate Finance Toolkit to prepare a full-blown transaction document. We will use all the intelligence layers, the visualization studio, and see how corporate finance transaction documents are created. So stay tuned and keep following our work.